listening to the Metal Command Podcast.
Back here on the Metal Command Podcast, let's talk about Crimson Glory. A lot of people obviously know, many of you know, they have a new album that will be coming out, and they have a new single, Triskaideka. I think I pronounced that right. I don't know if I pronounced it right. If the guys at the band hear that and they think I pronounced it wrong, I apologize. But they put out a new song, and it's the first new material we have had in a very, very long time. Now, Crimson Glory is really one of those bands that's really, really well renowned for their first two albums. The first album, then, of course, the album Transcendence. Probably two of the most influential albums when it comes to progressive heavy metal. Midnight, of course, being a phenomenal vocalist who has sadly passed away. A lot of people love his vocals. And the fact that this band came back, I think, is a very, very good thing. Now, when I first talked about this on the Metal Command page, you had a lot of haters. You had a lot of people that were optimistic. You had a lot of people that were I'd say a majority of people were skeptical because they want to hear what it sounds like. And that's completely fine. And the reason many people were skeptical, you have no John Drenning, and obviously Midnight is not going to be a part of the album. So you have a new singer, and the singer is probably the biggest thing that people were sort of skeptical about. Tavis Wills. Sang in a band, Infidel Rising, I believe that's the name of the band that he was in. And they had kind of like a music teaser on their website and on YouTube. And then they were actually selling this single. Before they put it on YouTube, it was actually being sold on their website for like $1. I think it was like $1 to check the song out. I ended up getting the song, so I've been listening to it for quite a while. And I'm going to give you all some thoughts on this. Now, if you listened or watched the previous podcast, I talked about how important it was for a band like this to have a home run for an album. Because you have so many skeptical people. You know, if like 90% of the people were excited about it, you know, if it's a decent record, like a 7 or 8 out of 10, 6 out of 10, it probably would still go over somewhat well with the fan base. They would be happy the band is back. They would at least like a portion of the album. But this record, when I went and looked at the comments on the page, a lot of skeptical people. A lot of people were like, no John Drenning, no Midnight, no Crimson Glory. It's a tribute band. You know, that stupid excuse that people have. Even though there's like 3 original members left in the band. But a lot of people are skeptical. And I emphasized that this album better be a home run. Because when the haters come in, that's all you're going to see. So here are my thoughts on the song. First of all, I like the song. And I'm pretty optimistic about the album. Now, I like the song. I'd probably give the song a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Somewhere between there. I think the song is good. I like the vocalist. When I posted a link to the song on the page, a lot of people love the singer. A lot of people love the singer and said that, you know, they didn't care for the song that much, but, you know, it's kind of a step in the right direction. Then, of course, you had a few haters, but not as many when the song came out, which is actually a good sign. For me, I always take into account bands and labels picking some of the worst songs on the album to be the single. So I'm still pretty optimistic about the album. There are a couple people that I know who have heard the album. And because they've heard the album, they say it's great. And these are people that like 90 to 95% of what I like. So that made me even more optimistic about the record. So the verdict is going to be out. Now, I think Tavis Wills does an excellent job. I think they definitely picked the right singer, and I think that is a huge step. Because if you pick the right singer, to do this stuff, which I think they have, that immediately flips the script with a lot of the skeptics to say, okay, we think this album probably will be good. Because if he came in and sucked, then it probably wouldn't go over very well. There'd be a lot more haters in the feed, and the post would probably get 10 times more attention than it did. So I think the song is good. Now, how would I compare it to older stuff that they have done? To say the first two albums, to say, an album like Astronomica. I'll just say this. I think Crimson Glory is 4 albums now? This will be the 5th. I like this song better than what they have done on the last 2 albums they put out. Astronomica and then the one before that. But do I like it as much as anything off of Transcendence or the debut album? The answer would be no. Not saying the song is bad. I like the song, clearly. But do I think it's as good as anything off of the first 2 albums? No. But is it definitely, in my opinion, better than what they did on the last 2 records that they had put out and the last album, Astronomica? My opinion, absolutely yes. Now, even if this album, in my opinion, is not as good as, say, the first 2 albums, and when I say not as good, I'm talking about the songwriting. Like, if I don't like the songs as much as I do on the first album, but I still like the album, for me, I'd consider it a success. This band has been gone as far as not putting out albums for a very, very long time. And typically, most bands that get back together after being away or apart or not recording anything or not writing any music or putting out an album in a long time, generally speaking, they need at least one album to kind of get their act back together, and then the album after that is generally better. So if I like this album, at least for my own personal musical taste and preference, if I like this album better than the last 2 records, but not as much as the first 2, I would still consider it a success. Because they came back, they put out this album, they got a new singer, they got a new guitar player to replace John, and it's still a success because I think, and especially, it's a success, especially if they put another record out after this that's even better. Because you got to start somewhere, right? If you haven't been putting records out for a long time, you have to start someplace. So if the album is a good record, let's say a 7 or 8 out of 10, for me, that would be a success for them. That's how I am. That's my viewpoint at it anyway. Now, a lot of the haters have come out, but I don't see as many haters bashing, the idea of them putting out an album now after that song came out. So that's actually a very, very good sign. But I would say a majority of people that have followed the band or love the band, I think you have more skeptics than you really have haters or people that are absolutely excited about this. Only because you have 2 members of the band that aren't there anymore. So anyhow, those are my thoughts on it. I like the song. I'm looking forward to the album. And with that said, folks, thanks for watching. I put a link to the song in the show notes on YouTube. Check it out. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of it.